would have Karma with me, but I have to go and pick up the girl. So, but I would just do this walk and talk on my own in Oneonta on the mean streets. So, let's go over what's going down in the world. We now have sentencing dates, two separate sentencing dates for Clare Bronfman and Kathy Russell in the Nexium case, right? So I believe Clare Bronfman is going to be January 8th, and Kathy Russell, who is the bookkeeper, is January 29th. Here's the thing, and if you go to my Twitter right now, I posted the details. The weather's great, thank you for asking. It's a lovely fall day. Post the details over at Twitter, but you'll see them. So Clare Bronfman has already really worked a deal out that is so sweetheart, it's unbelievable. And if you read even the short article, they talk about, the Mexican nationals and, how big this was. She's getting 21 to 72 months, I think. I think that's it, right? And I don't think it's even 72. I might have even read it, but it's less than that. If she gets more than, is it 27 months, she can appeal. So I really think that the deal is already in and that the fix is there, and she is going to get within those restraints. We won't see an appeal. I'd love to be shocked. I'd love to see him throw the book at her, which, she was really looking at, hundreds of years in jail for trafficking women and election fraud, laundering money for the Clinton campaign in 2007 and 2008. And with the Salzman also pleading guilty, with her bankrolling the entire defense, you have to ask yourself, how much of this was valid in the first place? Raniere didn't even put on a defense. And now with the TV movie out there, with another Hollywood star saying he's connected, by the way, 15 watching, 2 thumbs up. Let's get a few more thumbs up. Can we, guys? Can we please? You once again have to take a step back and go, how much of this didn't come out? Especially on the heels of the Epstein case, right? How much of the Epstein case is still coming out? No one's really focused on his brother, Mark Epstein, much, other than, he ends up being the executor of the state. You know what I always see in the comments? I want to dispel this rather quickly, is that Epstein never had a funeral. Epstein never had a funeral, right? And I think to myself, they did show his unmarked grave at a mausoleum. Was this guy going to have a public funeral? Do you think anybody was going? Let's be real here. The supposed billionaire in a multinational sex trafficking operation, where the indictment reads it as an enterprise and says there's ongoing investigations. Who's attending that funeral? Nevertheless, getting back to Mark Epstein for a moment, showing you these connections here. He also funded a think tank with Adam Schiff at the head at some point. Schiffy McGee, and that's going to bring us to our next subject. The entire country is going insane about what? The Ukraine. The Ukraine. Most people couldn't point to it at a map, have no idea about it geopolitically, and on top of that, don't know how this scandal started as a Biden scandal that nobody was touching, and somehow turned into an impeachment inquiry scandal where the entire country is once again on their left and right divide, right? All Team Red and all Team Blue are shouting at one another, screaming at one another. You're a traitor, you hate this country, and all the rhetoric that goes with it. The liberals can't wait to get this racist Nazi out of there. And and the people on the right can't wait to stop the libtard agenda. So I'm just going to break it down really easily. Biden is a longtime criminal. He has been for some time. This isn't news. I did a story in April on his son's corruption, on the fact that somehow he gets an energy deal with $50,000 a month, and I believe it was a $1.5 million initial payout. Obviously, people within the country said, wait a minute, this looks a little crooked. A prosecutor starts looking at it, and Biden says, in front of the CFR, next to Richard Haass, remember the Council on Foreign Relations, probably the largest public think tank that is pro-globalism, right? Haass being the longtime head of that organization. Sitting right next to him, he brags that he's already worked out a deal, not only with the head of the Ukraine, but somebody else, two separate parties, that this man's going to be fired. And we all know why he's going to be fired. He's going to be fired because he's investigating his son. I mean, if you can't read in between that line, I don't know what to tell you. That's a pretty obvious one, right? However, he hasn't been. And Biden there, lo and behold, is there for military aid, right? What they're talking about now, Trump was dealing with in this big scandal. But this is a fact, and now it's for $1 billion in military aid. Well, Biden says in his Joey B voice that, well, you're not getting the billion unless this guy's fired. And leader of the country says, well, you're not the president of the United States. I don't really have to listen to you. Call him. Call him. That's what he says. Then he tells him he's on a plane in 6 hours and he can decide what to do. On top of that, he brags about how he got him fired in those 6 hours and that they put a good person in for him. But somehow, with that video being readily available to the public and the awesome mainstream media, right? The awesome Fox News, the awesome MSNBC, the awesome CNN, huh? That's all over the TV, isn't it? No. It's impeachment nonsense. And Schiff is really, I don't want to go partisan lines, but he is probably one of the most vile politicians I've seen promoted in some time. Not that Nadler isn't another one of these vile shills that knows exactly what they're doing, that knows there is no Russiagate, that, is playing the party line as hard as they can, right? Schiff looks, acts, probably smells like a weasel. I don't know if that's hate speech, but when he's sitting there talking about how they forced his hand with this utter election interference, and they have it as the national conversation, as though foreign nations never divulged information on other parties, as if people didn't once get dirt on each other in other political elections throughout history through phone calls and meetings like that one, right? Let me give you a good example. This came to mind. In my film Invisible Empire, after I go through a bunch of these organizations, the Council on Foreign Relations, and especially the Bilderberg Group, right? Brian Lamb of C-SPAN, who's done a lot of great interviews over the years and asked some of the tougher questions that you don't see everywhere, right? He asked the question of Zbigniew Brzezinski, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, and he says, basically, the Illuminati types, and you're a poster boy for these people. And he goes, tell me about some of this. And he goes, well, obviously, there are sort of over the table and under the table arrangements. And first of all, I think the majority of these under the table arrangements do need to be brought to light because they are nefarious in nature. They are against you and I, the serf class in their eyes. Remember, the predator class, in a large part, are minion social climbers like Biden. Oh, I just want to get to be vice president and now president. I mean, he's wanted to be president forever. He's as shifty as it gets. He's an establishment guy. And instead, the media promotes that, right? They don't talk about what really needs to be exposed. They flip it on its head. And in some ways, that'll make me sympathetic to Trump and his plight. Believe me, I'm no Trump trainer, but he's absolutely being railroaded on this. If he made a deal to get dirt on Biden, so what? I'm going to say it again, so what? This is not election interference by the Ukraine by any means at all. It's disturbing, it's ridiculous, and it pains me to say that our country has gone this far wayward. But it's not surprising, right? If you see in my movies, it's not surprising, and you can see them all on this channel in the documentary section for free. Make sure to thumbs the video up, share it with others. Go check out my 2 other videos on a man storming a cockpit on Alaska Airlines recently, and why we need to shut down the school shooting drills. They're doing more harm than good on a massive level, whether you're aware of it or not. I broke it down just moments ago, so go check those videos out. I love you guys, and I will see you on the flip side.